This is Kimberly Rice, and you are tuned into the Secret Sauce Marketing Tasting Show, the groundbreaking podcast for business bosses, professional women, and anyone who is hungry to learn how to create the career, business, and life of their dreams by charting their own course. Good morning, everyone. This is Kimberly Rice, President, Chief Strategist of KLA Marketing, for another episode of Secret Sauce Marketing Tastings podcast. Today, my listeners, we are in for a special treat. I have our guest today, Damian Smith, who is the president and founder of Force Fitness and Nutrition, and he has a lot of letters after his name, and I'm going to let him explain what all of those certifications and credentials are. But we're very, very excited to host and welcome Damian here today. And we're talking about the role of body, mind, spirit, and reaching peak performance as stress management and fitness / wellness and well-being in all of our overscheduled lives. So, Damian, thank you and welcome for joining us today.
Oh, I appreciate you having me, Kimberly. Pleasure as always.
So, tell us a little bit about Force Fitness and Nutrition, the unique value proposition, and about yourself.
Well, sure. So, at Force Fitness and Nutrition, our mission is to elevate the health, wellness, and performance of individuals and corporations by implementing customized as well as compelling fitness solutions in a holistic and organic manner. And what that means is this: oftentimes when people think of fitness, it's generally in a physical manner. And for many reasons, that's a great thing. What I've witnessed over the last 15 years or so is there's a great deal of disconnection between the fitnesses people are looking for, meaning the physical fitness, the physical appearance, things like that. But there's a big disconnect between the fitness that we often really need to build. The physical is important. However, the internal fitness, something we regard as an extraordinarily important part of life, well-being, as well as all the other fitnesses you want to build. Is the fitness inside. It's self-regulation. So implemented in our programming for individuals and corporation is programming that help people begin to exercise elements within themselves that begin to help people understand not only how to reduce stress, meaning like often people are looking to do things that help them, relax at the end of the night, things like that. Our mission is to help you not feel the stress as bad enough to begin with, and to heal better. And by exercising these certain specific things, which we'll talk about today, people will begin to feel that power and get a lot more benefits from that.
Fascinating. Absolutely fascinating. I think one of the things, I've always been, earlier days was very active in physical fitness programs. I've worked with numerous nutritionists over the years. Also have had an extraordinarily busy and fast-moving professional life over 30 years. And it takes a toll on us. Having the wherewithal and the mindset to say enough of, my work product development. I need to take care of myself. Most workplaces are not organized in such a way that they encourage their employees, their professionals to leave work and take care of themselves or their families. And so one of the things that I've recognized over some years and working together with you, Damian, is the absolute imperative to carve out time for ourselves, whatever that may look like, to reach a level of health not only physically, but the balance that we try to all aspire to is the body, mind, spirit, nutrition, exercise, rest, etc. So I want to ask you, referring to your company's tagline, health, wellness, and peak performance, why those three things, and what does this mean for you and for your clients?
Sure. Well, our tagline is a little bit different. Our tagline is health, wellness, and performance solutions, and that really is the factor right there. So we work with many people, all from children to all the way up to 88 years old. Whether it be working or playing on an athletic field, or working and performing in an office or a courtroom, or anything like that, feeling the power within you and feeling the performance and the continuity of performance from job to job is very important. So with that said, what our job is to do is to help people understand where they should begin. So one of the things that individualizes us is really taking, whether it be an individual or a corporation, with all the employees and really understanding what their needs are, and really beginning to understand where they should begin. So to clarify my statement and maybe kind of bridge your last comments to this conversation is this: it's all about habit building. So oftentimes people will fail to carve out time if they don't feel the benefit from the activity that they're doing, or if they don't feel enough benefit, or if they don't feel compelled enough to do it. And that's where the customization comes in. And what I found with folks over time, whether it be from a physical fitness standpoint, a nutritional fitness standpoint, an internal fitness standpoint, it's really helping them feel the differences. And when you overload someone with exercise in a physical way, if we do too much work, if you haven't worked out in 3 years, and you go back to the gym and you run 5 miles on a treadmill and you do an hour worth of weight training, and you did a whole bunch of work the next day, you never want to go to the gym again. You feel so much pain and so much anxiety from the time you put in. It just doesn't create a habit. From a physical fitness standpoint, it's very important to start off with the right exercise for you, the exercises that are safest for your joints, in a time convenient manner. And when you do things like that, you get the sense that you can do it. And not only that, you feel good when you're done doing it. So starting off at the right level is very important. So when we talk about nutritional fitness or internal fitness, and I'll really define internal fitness as we kind of go on here, it's really about starting off in simple ways. Starting off in simple ways where you can begin to set a small goal, achieve it, feel good about achieving it from a mental standpoint, and feel it inside your body is a good thing. That creates momentum. That creates a success cycle. And when you're on that success cycle, just in business, Kimberly, with marketing, it can be a very challenging thing. But once you get that ball rolling and you see a little bit of success, you kind of want to keep on going. And that's what we look to do. We look to help individuals and corporations, start off in small steps. And when individuals feel that change, those subtle changes, they're enthralled by it and they want more. When corporations see what these things can do for their employees, they begin to be enthralled by it. They begin to be compelled by it, and suddenly it makes sense to invest in it. So that's our goal. Our goal is to help people kind of see the light, make these small goals, get the momentum rolling, and get this success happening for them. So step by step, inch by inch, life is a cinch, yard by yard, life can get hard. So we keep it inch by inch. You like that?
Oh, that's phenomenal. That's fantastic. Well, I can share with you that, working with our professional services firms, working with professional services providers, lawyers, accountants, etc., the clocks rarely stop. They're always so focused on getting to the trains to run on time, the endless client deadlines, and it can be overwhelming. In fact, we work a lot with our clients and coaching situations where they just don't feel like they can fit one more thing into their 18, 20-hour days, and they're just falling out at night. And I know personally, in my own business, KLA Marketing, is that it is challenging to set aside the time. But I also understand that requires a mindset shift of not attaching one more thing to our busy day, but really probably, and I'd love to hear your thoughts about this, is flipping that on its head. Similar to when we're all flying and you have the emergency safety instructions of the air cups coming down, the oxygen mask coming down, that you need to put this on before you help anyone sitting next to you, a child or whoever, is that, if we get filled up inside physically, nutritionally, spiritually, etc., then we have so much more than we can offer to our clients, our family, our universe, etc. But that's not what Western medicine teaches. That's not what our culture teaches. Our culture teaches, go, 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 work hard, and never end. And that's what's rewarded in our society. So that, to speak to that mindset of, we have to, exercise self-care, regardless of where we are in our lives. Obviously folks who have families, young children at all, is another layer of responsibility and obligation. So how would you, Damien, respond to the importance of the self-care as it relates to preparing and equipping ourselves for higher performance?
Well, I mean, you said a couple key things there. People do not feel like they have time. Well, I think one of the biggest reasons people don't feel they have the time is because they are stressed to the max. Stress does mucho crazy stuff to us. It makes us feel certain ways. It makes our brain, or makes our thoughts, our emotional mind is all over the place. And oftentimes what happens is we begin stimulating things that cause us more harm over time. But, we'll take care of it in a second. So what happens is, and this is pretty darn important to talk about, one of the benefits of setting aside the time, so to speak, or at least giving yourself the opportunity to see the other side of things. And what I mean by that is this. Right now, if you're at that level where you're saying, I just can't fit anything on the plate, anxiety, disturbances in your mood, lack of sleep, all those sort of things are what stress and the emotional mind begin to really pulsate. And that emotional mind means your brain's thinking about 12 different things at one time. You're putting 100% effort into 100% of things, which isn't 100%, by the way. And your brain is firing constantly. And you may find it hard to begin shutting off the brain when the workday is done. And as that cycle continues and continues, all that does is say to you, I don't have enough time. With the right training, you begin to calm down the emotional mind. And you begin to raise up the wisdom. I'm not saying anyone out there doesn't have wisdom, but what happens, the emotional mind sometimes takes over, and the wisdom we have, is kind of pushed down. So with some of the techniques that we do, which do not take a lot of time at all, actually, when I first start working with people with this internal fitness, we do 3 sets of 10 breaths. That means 30 breaths. That's it. When I first begin working with someone, their first homework assignment is literally doing 3 sets of 10 breaths. And oftentimes, in fact, this happened pretty much always, is after the 3 sets of 10 breaths, they feel changed. They suddenly don't begin thinking about what's going to happen tomorrow, what happened way back then, they're in the now. And being in the now gives you power. Being in the now begins to help you understand you have time. In fact, it gives you the power to say, you know what? I need to give myself this time because I feel better now. I feel calmer now. And because I feel better and calmer, I feel I can perform better. And not only that, when you begin doing these type of exercises on a regular basis, you'll be more fulfilled when you actually finish doing what you're doing. Instead of just feeling like you have one more thing to do. Everything's going, I got 20 more things to do, and you can't enjoy the now. Enjoying the now is important because enjoying the now is going to help fuel what you do tomorrow and what you do down the line and what your other goals are down the line for yourself.
Fascinating. It's to me, I'm reminded of easy to say, hard to do. And I know from personal experience that the most challenging aspect of making any change is the first step to decide to make the change.
This is true.
I mean, once we're in the change, then the change begins to happen. And all of this relates to, working with our clients and developing prosperous businesses and all of the marketing tactics or all the action steps that are required. We see so many of our clients that are just in a constant state of overwhelm because they either never have gotten in touch with that internal fitness, and or they don't have their own personal practices because they're so focused on checking the boxes of all the doing, which over the long term is why people are dropping, earlier from heart attacks and, life debilitating diseases, etc. That so many folks, and this would be another interesting conversation, is so many of the things that are happening in our society today is a direct output of the stress that is the result of the lifestyles that we're living as high-level professionals that have a very difficult time to turn it off. But one of the things that I want to explore a little bit more is you speak regularly about self-regulation. So explain, if you would, what that is and how it is a path to balance or more fitness, a sense of fitness.
Yeah, I mean, balance is a perfect word. So self-regulation is just that. It's learning how to regulate yourself. And oftentimes people may be a little bit confused when I'm talking about that. Well, there's mechanisms, literally physical mechanisms inside yourself. You may not know play an important role towards literally regulating hormones inside yourself, regulating emotions, regulating how you feel. These are trainable and they're detrainable as well.
What do you mean by that,
yes,
detrainable?
Yeah, there you go. So, okay, so put it this way. Let's say, and obviously human beings, for the most part, a healthy human being is going to learn how to walk on their own 2 feet. They're going to have the ability to walk around their own 2 feet. Let's say, an ankle or knee gets injured. Well, they're going to need crutches, right?
Right.
They're going to need to depend on something outside themselves in order to get around. So crutches can be a good thing. As the ankle and knee heals, you have a way of getting around.
Mm-hmm.
So after the ankle and knee heals, if we continue to use the crutches, what happens to our ability to move on our own? It's not going to actually get back to normal. We'll be depending on the crutches until we let the crutches go to the side and relearn to walk in an effective manner.
Right.
So coming back to our conversation, it kind of works like this. We do not live in a quote-unquote society, and I don't mean to say it, absurdly like this, but we live in a society where every commercial, every magazine, every TV show says, buy this, buy that, to feel this way or that way. We live in a society where it says if you want to feel good about yourself, get more likes on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, or whatever social media. We live in a society that says look this way and you'll feel better. And interesting enough, especially because kids are seeing these messages earlier and earlier and earlier, and kids are learning how to use electronic devices like iPads before they can read. I don't know how that works.
2 years old.
I don't know if you need to wait for a doctor in psychology to tell you that's bad, because it's pretty
bad.
obvious.
It's bad, right?
I mean, it's pretty obvious that cannot be a good thing towards development of human beings. But when you have this sort of thing from an early age, and you can imagine, most people know that, the brain is very soft early on, and it begins to form and form. If kids are, being essentially led into a path of saying that these external things are important towards who I am, looking a certain way, doing things a certain way, following other people, all these things are important. Eventually they're going to believe these things, and suddenly they're going to get desensitized to how to regulate themselves. They'll be depending on the number of likes from Facebook or whatever to feel good.
So how do you equate self-regulation to greater internal health?
Right. So as we begin regulating ourselves, maybe a better way of saying it is this. So speaking of health, as a busy worker, okay, what are your main tools throughout the day to stay in communication with customers? What are your main tools that fuel your business? Literally, the actual physical tools. What are the tools that
email, telephone,
sure,
in-person meetings, work product, constant stimulation,
pulses?
Yes,
these are all complete pulses. And when our internal environment may not be as strong as we would like it to be, these internal pulses, they begin to trigger hormonal responses from our body. So way back when, I wasn't there, you weren't there, so we don't know what happened, but I'm just gonna, I'm gonna put it out there in a funny way. In the cavemen days, when we're running away from, saber-toothed tigers, I don't know if that's the case, but our adrenaline kicked in. We're running or we're hunting for food. We had adrenaline kicking in. So your adrenaline is there for a reason. Cortisol, which is a hormone that is a peptide hormone that basically helps your body perform in an intense environment to accomplish a job. So it's there for a reason. But after we're done running from a saber-toothed tiger or whatever, getting dinner or whatever the case is, we would have time to cool down, relax, and recover. Okay?
Right.
We're not running from saber-toothed tigers anymore. We're not.
Pretty sure bet we are not. Not in my neighborhood.
However, we have these pulses of intense stimulation going on that make our body want to push out those same hormones, and they're not stopping.
You mean the hormone pulses?
The hormone pulses, meaning like the stimuli coming in. Now, the stimuli coming in, the phone, the computer, or whatever, if you turn all those things off, if your brain's used to them and you're thinking about 20 different things at one time, the pulses are still happening. You're just creating them.
Gotcha.
And suddenly the cortisol gets up to a high level, and there's many damaging effects to that, okay? Like weight gain, loss of muscle tissue, decreased testosterone, other changes in hormone levels because of how dysregulated or unregulated your body is. And what beginning to work on your internal fitness does, it begins to help you understand how to manage yourself better, how to actually increase good hormones and actually keep the other hormones in balance.
So what are some of the steps that you work with clients on, whether it's in a corporate setting or individual engagements, to bring them into a more productive state of self-regulation?
Sure, and it goes back to the inch-by-inch thing. That means, keeping things simple. Another way of saying that is the KISS principle, keeping things simple. And we'll start by literally working on 3 sets of 10 breaths. The breaths are done in a specific manner. So in Chinese medicine, there's something called the dantian. Essentially, it's the center part of your body. We're not going to go too far into all the aspects of why this is important, but working on a specific breathing is called embryonic breathing. When we're working on this type of breathing, we're basically beginning to stimulate an area of your body that creates a specific energy. In Chinese medicine, is called qi. The one thing when I talk about this sort of stuff, I don't go too far into the information intellectually. The reason I don't do that is because oftentimes it becomes mystical, and that takes away, sometimes pushes away people from it. But when you do this sort of breathing, what you'll begin to feel is, begin to feel better. You'll begin to see how emotionally out there your brain was, because you'll be in a more calm state. And when you're in that calm state, that more wisdom-based state, and you can differentiate where you were to where you are, you'll get an idea of how important this breathing is. So that's where we begin from a internal point of view. That means essentially internal nutrition. We'll be showing you how to nourish your body from the inside out. But we got to work nutrition from the outside in. And I'm not talking about food just yet. However, food is pretty darn important, very important. But the other food is how we talk to ourselves.
The self-talk.
The self-talk. How we do that. No matter whether you know it or not, you're talking to yourself all day long. Wouldn't you want to give yourself great, empowering messages? And it starts from a conscious effort. And we're teaching people how to use conscious exercises to eventually get into the subconscious. And when we practice, whether it be breathing or whether it be self-talk, initially these things start as a very conscious and thoughtful regulation. But eventually you practice it enough times, it becomes subconscious. You begin to regulate without regulating. And that's where the power comes in.
So it becomes almost like a muscle memory.
It becomes like driving your car onto the freeway. What I mean by